Welcome back to One More Tune. We are going to do some quick fire questions a little bit later on. One of the things that we thought we would talk about, we've talked about like our first gigs and stuff and early stories and that, but I don't know if we ever really got into how either of us first started like getting enough work to even vaguely think that there was a chance of doing music as a job.
I still don't, but yeah.
It's still a pipe dream. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's how long do you say that you've been working professionally for?
10 years.
You say 10 years.
But I've said 10 years for like the past 4 years. Like, it is actually 10 years now, because like, I guess.
Where'd you put the start? How'd you put the start?
Okay,
did you put it where you did your first ever paid gig, where you were doing 2 gigs a weekend, 2 gigs a month?
It happened fast for me. So I went from my first open mic, you know, the way it is in the beginning, open mics, and I went from like my first open mic to my first paid gig in like 3 weeks. But there's a reason why it happened so much, and I've got a lot of credit to give to a specific person. I can name him. It's a good thing. Michael McDermott from Red Rum Club.
Okay.
So this is before Red Rum Club were Red Rum Club, I guess. They were together, but they were called something else that I don't know if I'm allowed to say, because, you know.
Right,
Anyway, point is...
Before they got to become the band that they are now.
5 minutes into the podcast and the lawyers are coming for me. So anyway, he used to obviously play... He was where we are now.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, right? And so basically...
So he's been gigging professionally for 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just lie about it and be like, oh yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, no.
I did my first open mic.
Okay. I was gigging. I did my first ever paid gig, when I was almost 18.
Mm-hmm.
I am almost 28. Like, I'm 28 next week, birthday. Anyone wants to send me some gifts.
This will be out definitely after your birthday, this episode. So.
Well, that's fine. I can still send the gifts.
2026.
Yeah. So anyway, it has actually been 10 years now. It's just funny because I've been rounding up to 10 years for the past couple of years. But basically, it all happened very fast because I did an open mic in like really local to me, which he ran every Thursday in Crosby, and I went, played, and got chatting to him and stuff, and basically what happened was, he needed cover he'd basically seen me. I'd barely played a gig before, but I was at a good level, you know. I was a kind of like couch warrior, you know. I knew what I was doing at home, before I played. And I've never really, which is a good thing, like, but, you know, people ask all the time, do you ever get nervous when you go on stage? And the thing is, like, I do, yes, but like I've never struggled with it. So like even when I'd barely done any gigs, so I got up on that open mic, it was fine, and then he literally called me and messaged me like 2 weeks later, and it was like, I'm sick or whatever, I can't do a gig in Liverpool City Centre in Beer Keller.
Yeah,
and he was like, can you cover this for me? And I was like, what? Like, I just played an open mic like 2 weeks ago, and now I've got like a paid gig.
Yeah.
And it was like £100 or something, but I was like,
in your head, you're like, that is the most amount of money that anyone's ever been paid. No, you got to remember,
like, I was 18. Yeah, I was almost 18.
It's 2 hours work?
It was 2:45.
Yeah, and you're like...
I'm just like...
Oh my God.
all my friends are like working weekend jobs for like the whole weekend for that. I'm like, what? Are you sure? Are you sure you want me? And then basically I went, I smashed the gig, obviously.
3 weeks in as well. I love the level of confidence.
I wasn't confident at the time.
I would love to see what your set list was.
It was bad, and I was really scared.
Riptide.
Like, I'm making out now, like, for my own sanity, that I was fine, but I was not fine. I was like almost being sick before I got on stage because the Beer Keller's it's a big room, you know.
For a potential first gig, that would probably be quite an intimidating.
This was a Friday night.
What time?
I want to say like 7-9 or something. Like,
pretty prime time.
Quite busy as my first ever paid gig, and I was like, and then basically If we can pitch correct that, that'd be great. Yeah, and then I did that gig, and then obviously, like as they do when you start playing, the nerves went after
you get a song and a half
minutes,
in or whatever, and
I could tell everyone was into it, everyone was liking it, and then and it was great, and then I had a really good gig, and then the guy, good friend of mine still, Aaron, he doesn't live in Liverpool anymore, which is sad, but he was the I don't know what he was at the time. He ended up being the business development manager, but I think he was the social media guy at the time. Mm-hmm. But he was also doing the bookings for the acts.
Yeah.
Like it was a side job sort of thing. And he literally come up to me or whatever at the end, and he was like, "Do you want to do it every week?" And I was like, "What?" Like, so I went from doing an open mic 2 weeks later to having a literal weekly residency, a prime time in Liverpool City Centre. And the thing is, that's why, like, a lot of people say, and it's true, like, it's luck. Like, a lot of it is luck. Like,
knowing the right person.
I met the guy at the right time.
It's being ready when the opportunity presents itself as well,
like,
though.
I met a guy at the right time that just so happened 2 weeks later, he couldn't make a gig, and I could do it, and it worked out that way. But the thing is, it's a mix of luck, because if I would have got up on the stage and, like, been sick or something like I couldn't do it, then
you got up on stage and just gone,
honestly, like,
I don't think you would have won the residency.
Yeah, exactly. Or if I, would have been, like, sort of, like, really nervous to the point where I didn't.
You just messed it up.
Yeah. And so it's it's 50% luck. It's 50% luck gets you in the door sometimes, but what gets you through is hard work and staying calm and getting through it. And then also, like, it spanned from that then I got that one residency, but the rest, I will say, is, like, pretty hard work in sense of I then used the fact I had that residency.
You get your first gigs, and then you use those other gigs to...
So, exactly.
You always say, oh yeah, I've got a weekly residency here, and here, and hope that they know what that place is and think that it's a good gig.
And I literally managed to get from that into playing Matthew Street. And then Aaron, again, the same guy from the Beer Keller, I worked with him for years. As I say, we grew really close mates. And he was then asked, because someone who used to work at the Beer Keller went over to work for McCooley's Concert Square. And then when they opened, right? So this was the opening weekend. He was like, "Do you want to come and play in this new Irish bar? It's by this company, and they own quite a lot of bars."
So you played McCooley's opening weekend there?
Yeah, played McCooley's opening weekend, and that is where I met James Brackley.
Is that right?
Yeah, because he was like, I don't remember if he was a supervisor or a bartender at the time.
That's right. He came from... So he was working behind the bar and then became one of the musicians there, which I think must be... It seems like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a thing because he's already working there, but that seems like such a mad thing.
In a full circle moment, James Brackley used to be the guy that came up at the end of the gig to pay me.
Yeah.
And we used to have little conversations about music and now he's the guy getting paid. And it's like, that's so cool for him. Like, we've been saying we'll get him on the podcast.
We will. Brackley will be one of the guests coming up soon.
But yeah, so basically that's how, that's like pretty much like how it all fell for me. And I'm not going to lie, it was I am well aware of like how easy
that was. I don't want to say pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was straightforward. There's people I know that have been fighting for years to get a place in town. I just happen to know the right person who, like, and a lot of my career has been like that because I know I'm very lucky that I've known a lot of great people. The same thing with still from knowing Mike from Red Rum Club as well is like I got the opportunity to go to Cambridge University, not to study, definitely not, to play their summer ball thing.
Oh, so what?
Yeah,
you played Cambridge Uni summer ball.
Yeah, it was a cool night. That basically, the band got booked Red Rum Club to play.
Yeah.
And obviously, people may or may not know that I have a degree in audio production. And basically, I think the guy who was doing the sound couldn't make it, or was sick, or dropped out. I don't know. And basically, he was like,
"Oh yeah, you've told a bit of this."
He was
story
like, "Do you
before.
want to do it for us?" And I was like, yeah, man, like, I'll come. Like, it's Cambridge University. So, like, I've always wanted to go, like, just to see what it looks like because it's so famous and whatever.
Yeah.
So I went, and mate, it was the most pretentious. Oh, mate. We went in, right? We went in, and there was...
Be careful, because in my family, I have Cambridge Uni and Oxford Uni graduates.
Okay.
I went to my cousin's wedding at Cambridge Uni.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say pretentious, but it was quite pretentious. But, like...
It's posh.
Okay, let me describe. Okay. We went in, right? I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. We went in and we had to walk down this pathway, right? And they had these, like, ballerina dancers either side of the path, like, doing all this stuff. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
just a lad from Crosby.
And then we got to, like, the main circle, and there was these people who probably are, like, the tightest, most immaculate musicians I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And they were playing, like, popular sort of songs and stuff, but they were doing it on, like, violin, like a string quartet.
Okay, yeah.
And, like, one of them was playing the vocal line on a violin or a viola or
very
whatever,
tasty,
you know, and it was like so, and then everyone was coming around giving us food, and it was just like, oh, this is insane, and you could literally smell the money. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but like everybody was in these suits that look like they probably cost more than my house or something, and like it was an insane experience, but I was well aware that I was out of my depth.
Right.
You know, it is it's a different world. It is a different world.
Imagine what the band were thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna blag 245s of covers here.
The show was unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
I think they actually got the best response out of any other band that was on the bill. And considering it was Cambridge University, most of the bands
were they playing Red Rum tunes?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like they were doing it as a function band.
So I think what had happened was that basically the people who were booking the entertainment were trying to find up and coming trendy bands to play and stuff. And honestly, like,
I guess it's like a sort of SU thing. Isn't
they
it?
stormed the gig. It was unbelievable. Everyone was going nuts. And then afterwards, they had like a one of those silent disco things, and it was so cool. And basically, they had like 4 channels, right? So you could swap the channels.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of them.
So it was just such a surreal experience. Everywhere you went, the drinks were just free. It was like, oh, you know what you want, like, and like honestly, it was insane. And the university, I was just like, and then I remember we spoke. Oh God, I'm going off on it.
There's tangents on tangents here. Try and actually finish the first story. This was meant to be about your first few gigs.
I remember that we spoke to this girl. No, I can't say that.
You have to say it now. Okay. You can't leave people hanging like that.
We kind of chatting to this girl, and she went to Cambridge University, and she was like saying like, oh, like my aunt here was like the queen of something. We were like, what? And she was like going on about how she's from the royal family of a European country.
What?
But she probably wasn't joking because it's Cambridge University.
Oh my God.
And we were just like, what? And she was like going, oh yes, like
proper Princess Diaries
honestly
style.
And we remember just both being like, you should get more beer. Like, this is like, oh,
you got any Peroni Red, lad?
Oh, yeah, like, honestly, we're like, just bring the bottle. Because she was just literally, like, going on about her family and how... But this, what I'm saying, we're like, I'm sure there's a lot of down-to-earth people, like, 100%, a lot of people we met were really nice on that night. But there was a lot of like, do you know who my family is? You know what I mean? It was like, I am from like whatever, and it's like, and I hate
not hesitating to tell you about it either,
because I would never dream of going up to somebody and being like, oh, like you know what I mean?
You know who I am?
You know, I've got a podcast with
Roddy Pickering.
Got a podcast with 5 listeners, but like no, but you know what I mean? Like yeah, like
I played Macaulay's opening weekend.
Yeah, 100%. But like no, but that's what I mean. So like it really was like that, and I remember like the girl was like really trying to like. Okay, I'm not gonna like. I haven't mentioned who she is. Oh God, I'm slating so many people in this. And
this is basically just like press recording. Connor dobs himself in every week.
She's potentially from a royal family.
They're gonna get assassinated now.
If I don't come for filming next week,
Yeah.
You know, there's a horse's head in my bed or something. But but she was essentially, she was really trying to like get in with the band.
Okay,
and
yeah,
it was
right.
like, you know, or like, you know what I mean? And like, I mean, most of the Red Rum would sound like they're all married and stuff. But like, she was like really like trying, like, and
work her way in.
And it was like, oh, that girl just, oh man, like that. That's my main memory of Cambridge University was this girl just going on all night, and she started just having this conversation about European history and conflict, and we were like, man, like, we just finished a gig. We've had a couple of beers. Like, what are you going on about? It's like 1 a.m. in Cambridge. Like, and I remember, like, I just got a taxi home.
Yeah, you just at that moment, you just like looking at Uber.
I'm going back to the hotel because this is just ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to have a conversation about European politics at like, but you know, it's Cambridge. Maybe that's what they do. They have a few drinks and discuss world wars or something. I don't know, but like.
So this podcast isn't going to become a history podcast?
Oh, absolutely not. I couldn't. Yeah.
Do you think Hitler's greatest mistake was trying to invade Russia?
I didn't do very well in history.
Okay. That wasn't even what we were talking about because the original thread was whether just kind of talking about like your first few gigs and how you figured out that you might be able to get a career from it.
Well, okay, that's my story. That's it. Like that is my answer.
Story. So many tangents. So many non sequiturs. There must be something intelligible in there. My first few experiences, this will also be rambling and full of tangents.
That's fine.
So I started gigging with my mate Ash. We had a little duo called Marina 19, and we played in a couple of local bars on the Wirral. One of them I still play in now, the OBK.
I know you're going to say that. Yeah.
Also played in Slinkies and West Kirby. We had some amazing times.
I heard some stories off your dad about your old OBK gigs.
Oh yeah, there's a gig me and Ash did where I think our speakers kind of worked, kind of half didn't work. We were like 16 at the time, obviously playing in a bar at 16. But that is besides the point.
That's legal. You can legally work, and you're working.
Yeah, and if you don't buy the pint, you get given the pint for free. Then it's.
Yeah, 100%.
No. This is a comedy podcast.
It's turning into a comedy podcast.
Yeah, because we are a joke. Our careers are a joke. There was one gig me and Ash did where I wasn't playing guitar.
Yeah.
I was playing the snare drum and the kazoo.
That's just the snare drum?
Yeah, so I had brushes.
Right. Like a marching band?
Yeah, Ash would play some tunes, I'd play the snare and kazoo the sort of like lead lines and stuff. You know, if you imagine
hear that, like, this is insane.
If you imagine the start of Paolo Nutini, Pencil Full of Lead.
Oh, okay, yeah.
On the kazoo, the start.
That's cool. Actually.
Yeah, that was that. We thought it was great. It probably sounded terrible.
Is there any footage of this?
I think there's footage of me and Ash doing a cover of Pompeii by Bastille in my mum and dad's front room that I tried to edit multi-camera angles and shit for when we were like 16. It was cool. Yeah. There was a continuity error where I had a necklace that had like fallen in and out of a pocket in between takes, so you could see it wasn't the same take. That's a weird memory. Anyway, that's the tangents that we've already started from nowhere.
Yep.
That wasn't really when I considered I actually started gigging.
Okay.
Because I did that till I was about 18, went to Newcastle Uni, didn't really gig, did some open mics and stuff in the first year because I was in first year at new uni and was like enjoying being at a new uni.
So
wasn't really trying to do loads of gigs.
Or pretty much just incapable because you were that drunk.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. That is also very possible. Started gigging a bit more in the second year, got some gigs, got some residencies up in Newcastle through a guy who was running the Newcastle Uni Students' Union open mic.
Nice.
Who had a guy called Bruce who was really sound. Mm-hmm. He had still has a music agency up in Newcastle called Need Music.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked with him for quite a while.
Okay.
Did a lot of gigs with him. Mm-hmm. We'd go around and do like open mics together and stuff. That was really good. That was kind of like the sort of early part of me actually figuring out how to do this as a job. Got 100%. A few really good gigs in Newcastle, but to get all my work, I consider that probably the start of things, but sort of still in its infancy. I wasn't doing it full time. It wasn't paying my way in life.
Yeah.
When I started doing it properly back home, I kind of got a similar jump of it being quick setup back here because I'd already been gigging in Newcastle, so I'd learned my chops a bit.
Yeah.
And the way that I got gigs back here was I looked at every venue that I knew that did live music or knew that did an open mic and either got in contact with them or booked in to go and do the open mic and made a point of like
being good. Yeah.
Going there gig ready to do an open mic is the best way to win work. If you haven't got regular gigs, the best bit of advice is get 15 minutes really solid, really lively, interesting, couple of interesting choices of songs.
Yeah.
Be gig ready. Go do an open mic. You'll get a gig off the back of that. They will notice because open mics are all levels, and if you're ready to work for them, then they will be more than happy to oblige. Which is my experience. So I got a lot of like played an open mic, got a gig, played an open mic, got a gig. And yeah, I think I was doing a bit of part-time work here and there, working in a cafe or something. And then when I was getting the private parties and the first few weddings in and stuff, I started going, okay, there's actually more than just a Friday night or a Saturday night, 150 quid or whatever it is, like gig on top of my earnings. So you make the jump and it's big and scary.
It is.
And then you realise that actually, you as long as I guess I'm lucky to have some sort of like safety nets around me and things and stuff. You know, like during COVID when we weren't able to gig, I was lucky enough to move back into my mum and dad's and they helped quite a lot.
Do you think that you should have a plan B?
Oh.
Because I've seen a lot of people say no. I've seen Ed Sheeran on a podcast not long ago and he was like, I think it's very important to not have a plan B because if you have a plan B and plan A starts going a bit, sort of wonky,
do you give it every chance until the last moment?
If you don't have any other option, you're gonna make plan A work, right? But the thing is, he can say that because he's Ed Sheeran, right? And it's worked out well.
Yeah. His plan A is fine. He doesn't have to even worry about
I
plan
know
B.
a lot of people who didn't have a plan B.
I think that there's two different ways to think about it. I think when you're in the middle of trying to fight to make plan A work, having a plan B doesn't help you, just distracts you. But when you're thinking about starting down a certain path and that path of plan A isn't necessarily like started yet, if it's a slightly riskier sort of like, making money in music isn't like super straightforward. There's not an obvious path to get into it. Everyone has to kind of like furrow their own path, really.
Yeah.
Unless you start working for an AV company or something, there's a bit more kind of like corporate structure. But to actually be playing live music and stuff is a different path for every single person.
Yeah, I've never met a single, which is why I like getting guests on as well, is because like
their story's completely
different.
A
single person
who's had the same experience
story to get into this industry,
which is wild.
Where if you go in any other job, it's like, I did the same interview.
I had to pass this exam.
I sent my CV.
I worked there for 2.5 years. Got upgraded. Got promoted to this level.
100%. So weird.
But if you're doing a job where there's inherently not a clear path to a level of sustained success, then maybe having some idea what your plan B is before you start going down that path, then yes. But I think plan B distraction.
What would your plan B have been?
Being a chef.
Okay. Nice.
That would have been something that I also had as a passion. It's not something I've ever done really professionally before. I've worked in a few cafes and coffee shops and like M&S Cafe and stuff where there is like the bare minimum of food prep related to those jobs.
Okay.
That wasn't what made me fall in love with the idea of being a chef. I'm avid home cook. I'm like cooking stuff all the time at home. And I think that I'd actually be able to put enough passion into that the kind of really hard bits around it would be balanced a little bit by my love of the act of doing it. Because I just, even it's like meditative, doing all the preps and stuff, I really enjoy it. So I think that's not something I've ever done properly and followed down. I think Alex, my partner, thinks that there's a chance that at some point, if gigging isn't what I'm doing anymore, that I might be, setting up a small business or like food truck or something. I think that's not an impossible future.
Unbelievable.
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. That would be cool.
What about you? What's your when we're discussing whether you should have a plan B or not? We're already going, what is your plan B? Because everyone's definitely thought about it.
I mean,
what would be the next most obvious, consistent way for you to make money if it wasn't doing what you're doing right now?
Videography and photography, because like
still so events industry based.
It's the same game. It's the same game with a different weapon. Like, you know, that's the way I look at it. No,
you're not wrong. Thing is, you can stretch that out because I think sometimes being self-employed, just gig economy work, like being I'm basically going to start saying that we're on the tools now, because being a labourer or electrician or a sparky or a plumber or whatever, it is all just gig work. Like, the gigs are different.
It's
gigs.
The self-employed mindset, and I think the thing is like, it's not for everyone. But the thing is, right, is that like, for me, I couldn't do it. Like, I can't do the job thing. I've tried, as we've spoken about on previous podcasts. I've tried to do the job thing, and I've lasted a couple of weeks. Because I'm so used to it as well, and I've done it from being young. I'm used to being in charge of my diary. I'm used to being in charge of everything I do, book and everything. Now, the usual caveats that people complain about being when they make the jump from employment to self-employment, they say, "Oh, it's the pressure of having to find work and things like that, and your money going up and down." That's all I've ever known. You know, I was born in the dark. But like, you know. But like,
I want to clip out all the times that Connor says something that could make him just look at an absolute twat. So that's one of them. And another one of them the other day was when we were talking about having a very tight turnaround in your diary, and when you pull it off, you were like, "Oh, it makes me feel like a rock star."
Yeah, well, you know, it's the comedy entertainment.
Oh right, yeah, okay, cool,
yeah. No, but like, I mean it in the sense of like, I have tried a couple of jobs and it's just not for me.
No, I worked for banks and stuff for a couple of years after uni.
So to get back to the original line of the question of my plan B is like, I think it would always have to be something self-employment related and something like gig sort of culture. But I have filmed a couple of weddings. I've got very good camera and things, and you know, I've done a couple of like photography, like sort of gigs for bands and things, and I really know that I enjoy that side of it. You know,
so it'd be quite an easy, natural next step.
Yeah,
I think for you, one of the next obvious things is kind of just like building
comedy.
Oh my god, yeah, that's going to be a long old road. Don't definitely have a plan B if your plan A is going to be trying to go down comedy, Connor.
Well, I did a stand-up set one time.
No, you never.
No, I did.
No, you never.
Let me tell you this story.
No, you never.
Okay, wait for this. Right. This is great.
Okay, this next couple of minutes can be you rounding off this.
Okay, right. This is my comedy stand-up. This is how I ended up with this. Right. So, oh god. So a girl I used to date. Right. Basically my first main relationship. Her brother is a comedian.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who, but he's quite well known, and he performs. He performs in like Blackstock and things.
Yeah,
pretty,
hot water. Yeah,
you know. Yeah, like
I think you could guess it. I think it would take 2 or 3 guesses, and you'd guess it.
Anyway, so
so you did.
He runs a lot of his own events as well, and he does quite well on the circuit and stuff. Anyway, so my first main relationship for about 4 or 5 years, I don't know, a long time, was with his sister, his younger sister. Anyway.
Emphasis on young.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I said that. But anyway, point is that obviously I spent a lot of time in his house, because this is back when they used to live with their mum.
Right.
So anyway, so basically, he is obviously a comedian, he's really funny, everyone thinks he's funny. I went to one of his shows one time.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, guys sitting in the crowd used to date your sister. Oh no, like I was the target of a lot of jokes, right? It just so happened that this particular night
was open mic.
An open mic, and I was like,
yes.
I'm not really a stand-up comedian. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm not the funniest. I'm not good at.
Let's all say, for Connor.
Yeah. But I did sleep with his sister. So the thing is, right, is that I was like, I've got I've got all the ammunition I need. If I just even get up,
if he plays the game, you're going to call it.
I slept with your sister. It's already funny. So me,
1-0,
couple of Guinness down. It's a good idea to get up on the stage, and anyway. And I did. And I basically told half an hour, and there's a video of it somewhere.
You did a half an hour stand-up set?
It was something like that, 25 minutes. Of literally just telling stories about, like, crazy stuff that he did when he was younger that he didn't want anyone to know about. You know what I mean? And in basically just embarrassing the host of this night. No. And it didn't work.
If there's any world in which whoever we're talking about sees this,
he will likely see
I would love a response.
He does. You
know who you are.
He is on. This isn't going to be who you think it is, but he is on, comedy podcast thing as well. So, I'm sure he will probably know because he's big. He knows the podcast world quite well. But the thing is, my point is that, like, he came up to me afterwards and he actually said, that was pretty funny. Like, he said, like, he was like, I know what you've done. And I was like, and I remember saying to him, like I 8-miled you because I knew that you were going to say all this embarrassing stuff about me. So I said it first, but I span it to make him look like, you know what I mean? I told the stories that he was going to tell, but I did it in
from
such
your
a
perspective
way
that made him look weird.
That it made him look weird, and his sister look weird. And then apparently it got sent to his sister, who I've not spoken to in years. And I don't know how that went down. Probably not good, because considering some of the things I say, I certainly can't say on a podcast. But let's just say it was more like a roast.
A roast? A 25, 30-minute roast. So, well, we are going to come back and do a 25 or 30-minute roast of our careers. I think that could be a good second half.
100%.
We'll leave it there. We'll be back in a minute.
Yep.
Hey guys, hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. Please remember to go and follow us online, TikTok, Instagram, all those places. Like and comment on this. You can book us for any private parties, events, weddings, whatever it is. Drop us a message on our socials. Come see us live. We're playing every weekend around the Northwest. Let's get back into the episode. Woo. And we're back. We are. Second section, we were talking about some of our first forays into gigging. I wanted this half of this podcast to be subtitled "When We Were Shit."
Okay. I feel like I still am.
Okay. We all have our off days. Yeah. There's just tends to be less of them now, you'd hope. No, just from the perspective of like, oh God, it's performing live music.
Yeah.
There has to be a certain like... position in your perspective where it's you're kind of like just creating atmosphere and stuff. If you're like in it going, oh, everyone's watching me playing a song, when you start even like the first few times you started playing, like I remember really cringe things. I think I played in a school assembly when I was like too old for it to not be like cute, to be awkward and weird.
Okay.
Play it on. This is so bad. Oh God, I just got.
You seem to have a lot of embarrassing stories at school assembly.
I know. The deputy head was like sound with me and like that. I was trying to do music and stuff. Nice. So he got me to play a song at the start of like an assembly thing he had with our whole year, and I was like 16 or something, and it was just the cringiest. Like I think I did. You've Got a Friend. You just call
James Taylor.
Yeah.
Not a nice
but
one.
I think another one I did, High School Never Ends by Bowling for Soup.
I mean, that's better. I thought you were going to say High School Musical. So
no, we're sorry. Yeah. Fly. That would be way better.
I've never seen that film. Never.
Okay, well, we'll do a watch along at some point.
No, we won't.
But yeah, just like the kind of perspective on how I would love to go back to some of my first, like proper, within the bracket of real work, some of my set lists from some of my first gigs, some of the stuff, the random stuff
I used to do like rapping.
You used to do rapping?
Rapping.
What have I had in mind that's like a little bit of...
Like I used to do Lose Yourself, Eminem.
Is No Diggity rapping?
Yeah. It's more it's more like R&B singy. It's rhythmic singing. Though,
Yeah.
I think. But like I'm talking like I was like the American accent, like I'm not gonna do it. But like
lose yourself in the music.
Yeah. Palms are sweaty, knees.
You're doing all that?
Oh, I was doing all that. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I do. I still sometimes pull out the Feel Good Inc. Gorillas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I love that.
Don't stop, shitty kid.
Scooby Snacks.
Scooby Snacks.
Oh,
yeah.
What a song.
Some of the old set lists have been
Park
so funny.
Life. Is that rapping? Is Park
No,
Life rap? That's talking.
It's like talking. Yeah, it's like saying fucking Vindaloo's a rap song.
Yeah, you've
me,
got
me mum, me dad, and me gran, and a bucket of Vindaloo.
You've got it. Yeah, but you've got to do like with Park. Like you've got to do the accent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When I get really awakened by the dustman.
But in a Scouse accent, it would not sound as appealing.
When a lad with the bins comes knocking on my door.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking was it's such a big, like, kind of moment shift for me in feeling like in control of the future of my gigs and making sure that gigs go well is the smooth transition thing. So talking about old set lists, you would have written out every song you were going to play. And I did, I don't know if you did. Back then, I would have tried to play them as close to the original song as possible, including change sections, bridge 100%. Sections. Try to do it as close to, because that's how you learn it. You'd sit there, you basically just play along to Spotify or the radio or whatever.
100%. You can play now 90% of my set with 4 chords, like the same 4 chords.
Yeah,
and I don't
move it around position-wise a little bit.
Like there's some kind of transpositions and whatever, but it's mostly 4 chords. And the thing is, some people will be like, "Oh, that's like terrible musicianship," but there's a distinct difference between a musician and an entertainer. And I think that we are an entertainer in our job. We're not a musician in the sense of like, you're playing music, but it's about getting people dancing, getting people singing, giving people a great night. They are not gonna mostly care if you're playing the same chord. Sometimes
95% of people aren't gonna know what's 100%. Happening. They only experience the music and the atmosphere and stuff.
The only people I've ever had complain about it, not complain, but just like
you didn't use enough major 7th chords.
I've had musicians at gigs be like, "I see what you did there."
Oh God, one of the worst things is I remember recently, maybe last summer, doing a wedding, and it's obviously nice to meet fellow musicians because you have stuff to talk about. But just before, as you're setting up to play a wedding to maybe 200 people, a musician not even coming over, it'd be like you'd set up, put a bit of playlist on. I hadn't started my set yet. At the bar, someone goes, "Oh, I've seen you setting up. I'm a musician." I think he did some similar kind of function band stuff for work and stuff.
It's not good.
And then I'm just going, "Oh God,
yeah." I know.
Because it's not that, like, I don't know how to put it in a kind of short way, but like there's a certain face that you put on when you're doing live performance. You get into a mode 100%. That is not necessarily like how you are outside of that mode. So if you're friends with someone as a musician, we might know each other a certain way. 100%. And if I see you while you're gigging, or you see me while we're gigging, and we lock eyes, and like there's a song that's having a certain response with people, but it's a funny, slightly cringe song to be playing, we would look at each other and be like, we'd have a secondary look while the other person's playing. So there's like sort of 2 conversations going on, but when there's another musician in the room that you don't know, you're always in the head going, "Oh, they think this is so cringe. They think that me playing Sweet Caroline is so cringe." All that stuff.
Set, I love it so much because it makes me laugh on the inside, but I know it works. I know it works, but I love in your set, and I know when you're gonna do it, when you loop the chord and then you play no in for ABBA. And I'm like,
that's such good drama.
But I know
suspense payoff
though. No, it happened the other week when I seen you at Punch Tommy's. And when I heard the riff, I was like, "Oh, here we go again! Like it's Mamma Mia again." But the entire bar got up to dance, and I'm like, "It works. I know why you do it." But it's like, as a musician, you're like, "Oh, that's the same 5 songs again. Like, but I completely understand. I've had, have you ever had a musician, though, who's, like, been in a bar and basically been, like, trying to make out they're better than you?
I've had people who I can tell are probably less experienced than me talking as if they're on my level. Mm-hmm. I've not had people be dismissive and down talking to me.
I've had people, the way you can read lips. You can read lips when you're playing, right? People don't understand this. You can kind of,
If you think, has the musician noticed this one thing that's happened in the room?
Yeah.
Yes, we have. Yes. We have noticed every single interaction that's happening in the room. Yeah. And if you know anyone there or something weird's happening, you've exchanged a glance with someone else being like, what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah, so I've had this, it's not even once, I've had this a load of times where basically a guy's been with a girl in the bar watching you. And you can tell he's a musician. You can tell without even speaking to them when they're a musician because they're not looking here, they're looking there.
Yeah,
right?
Or at your feet, or...
And that's how you know. So, like, basically, anyway, this guy, there's one example, but there's many a times it's happened. And he was like, it was in Eric's, and he was basically, like, saying to, like, his girlfriend, he's just playing the same, like, they're not even the real chords, like, you know what I mean? That's not, he was like, he's missed the bridge out, like, he was, like, basically analysing everything I was doing, and then, and I remember thinking in my head, I never said anything, obviously, because he's customer, whatever, but I remember thinking in my head, like, I'm on the stage getting paid here, like, you're not, like, and you do kind of have that thing of, like, if you're, the ego a little bit kind of kicks in and you're like a bit like, because they're trying to essentially make out the better than you sort of thing.
You got a little buzz.
And I have had that quite a few times where, like, I've seen guys, like, hyper-analysing what I'm doing, like musicians, and be like, he's not doing that right,
Because I'm so aware that a lot of people, particularly people who aren't very musically inclined, don't necessarily know what's happening. It's just if it's played right and the right kind of music and the right kind of atmosphere and you're going for it, then it's appropriate. I've been doing some quite egregious key changey stuff in my sets just to be able to maintain the flow. So
I sacrifice everything for the flow.
If I don't have to stop playing and there'll be a moment of, like, awkwardness in between a set, I'll try and basically keep playing for the 45. 100%. Because in my head, if you stop and then you're expecting everyone to clap, what are you going to do? 15 songs in 45 minutes and expect everyone to clap 15 times?
They clap the first couple of songs, and then after that, it's like, okay, we're having a good night. We're not going to clap every time.
For me, it's just easier to flow. You keep a good 100%. Atmosphere. You get to work people up a bit.
Yeah.
What was that? What were we talking about?
well, I was going to say that. So the worst one that I've had, I'm not mentioning any names, but a specific singer in Liverpool.
Here we go. They're trashing other singers again, Connor.
No, like
their dads. Okay, so that's narrowed it down again. It is literally press record and Connor will dob himself in. This is easy for me. It's so easy for me.
I'm an opinionated person. What can I say?
Gotta get it out.
But the thing is, like, this is all the stuff that's been bubbling up. I should have started the podcast years ago.
Just therapy.
This is
just
therapy at this point. But, like, right, obviously not mentioning any names.
But someone whose dad's relevant.
Someone's dad who thought he knew what he was talking about. No, basically, like, I got asked to come into a specific venue to look at a mixer that didn't work.
Right.
I went in and it did work. There was nothing wrong with it. People just didn't know how to use it because most musicians don't. Okay, fundamental tip is, like, you don't have to be amazing at music tech or whatever, but, like, learn how to work a mixer. You know what I mean?
Really basic. You are going to have a lot of people where there's expectation of you turning up 100%. And knowing how to use a mixer you've never used before.
Like, learn how to use.
Mate, if you turn up, it's a Digimixer. I am. You've got to try and flick through pages.
I will say that the mixer in question was like, it was like a really pretty advanced mixer for the bar. There was no need for it. It was like a 16-channel Digimixer with, like, 5 layers, like motorized faders. Anyway, it was a pretty complicated thing, but the ins and outs of it basically was, like, is like the way that they had this wired up. I don't even know why they did, but they had it wired up in such a way that, like, basically on page 1 you've got all your sliders, whatever, right? And then on page 2 you then had like the master outputs and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to go into it. But basically, there was nothing wrong with the mixer. It was just
people just didn't know how to
use it. Right. So basically, had this. I was like basically speaking to people. I put a message in the group of this venue, basically saying like, "There's nothing wrong with this mixer, right? It's fine." And then I had somebody basically going like, "There is, like, I can never get sound. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I've used mixers before. Like, I know." So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to do the nice thing here." So I was like, "Right, listen, I'm going to come down
with your own gear set up.
I'm going to come down for a day, and everyone that's on, I will do the sound for free, right? For free for the venue to prove to them that there's nothing wrong with this."
So
mixer.
on point in principle, you gave up a day.
Listen, I'm determined.
A stubborn man.
Okay, I am, right. So anyway, I went down, and this specific person happened to be singing. Right. So anyway,
The dad.
No, the singer, right? But they brought their dad with them.
Okay.
Right. This is how the dad gets involved.
I hope you can hear the nice ice cream truck going in the background as well.
That's nice. But anyway, so
I think he's dropping off more than ice cream.
yeah. Yeah. So basically, anyway, comes in, and I'm trying to like look. I'm not in like a mansplaining, like sort of talking down whatever to the person. Like, I was like kind of
genuinely trying to help,
genuinely trying
do
to
it in a quick, expedited way.
Show me what you normally do,
and I'll tell you where you're wrong.
Which
I'm not trying to mansplain, but that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. No. It's a practical way of demonstrating how it works.
So basically, I'm doing it right. They show me how they're doing it, and I'm basically saying, right, okay, look, like, you need to plug into here because the way this is routed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever.
You're actually being helpful.
Yeah, trying to. And their dad comes over and is like, "Oh, that mix is like, it's broke, it needs to be replaced." And I was like, no, it's not broke. Like, I'm trying to show you how to. And he was like, he was obviously much older than me. And he was like, "Listen, mate, like, I've been a DJ since before you were born." Oh. Anyway, so he was like, "I know what I'm doing. Like, I've used these mixers for years, and I'm telling you, it's broke, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Okay, well, just let me try and show you and all that." And he's like, no, but it's broke, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we had like this.
Was he particularly scouse, was he?
Yeah, very. So anyway, he had this like whatever, like he had this like really big chip on his shoulder about this. So he went and got a drink. I then got the sound on fine, and it sounded great. And even the musician in question was like, "It sounds really good." And I was like, so then he then came back over to me and was like something like, "What have you done? Like, you've done something here, like, you know what I mean?" He's
like made it work.
He was like, yeah. He was like, "You must have knew what setting was broke on it."
Yeah. Okay, so you broke it now.
And I was like,
he'd fixed it, but he was trying to say you broke it on purpose to fix it again.
This is the only time for the £27,000 I owe the government. This is the only time I've ever said this. And I was like, "Mate, I've literally got a degree in audio production. I spent years learning how to do this stuff." I was like, every single day. I was like, and I'm not normally I never mention that because
except for on maybe this episode earlier on or on the last episode, you did also mention it. So it's gonna become it's gonna become a running thing. That you go, "I've got a degree in audio engineering."
Listen,
shame can't tune your guitar for you.
I paid a lot of money for that degree, and it's not been very useful right now. But anyway, but yeah, so. That was like one story of like just where it was, like you say, like a sort of terrible gig situation. It wasn't even my gig, but it was a really awkward situation where it was like the guy was just having none of it. But then, like, as I say, I sorted it out, and then I still ended up getting the blame for even fixing the problem. You just can't win in some situations, and I just took the loss and was like, okay. And then yeah, I no longer play in that venue anyway because I had a big fallout with the manager. But anyway.
Yeah, I think you've probably not out of performance level, but out of your own situations, have lost probably more venues than I have. I can't really think of too many times where I've really burnt a bridge.
The reason I burn bridges, right, is because some of it, I will openly say it, as I've done a stupid thing and it's been my fault, right? But here's the thing.
Plenty.
Right.
I often get random texts being like, what's Connor done?
But here's the thing, right, is that in a lot of the times where a lot of people would just go with the flow and not say things, in a lot of the time.
To your own detriment at times, you can't let things rest when you think there's been a certain injustice or something.
Yeah, if I don't agree with something.
Are there any particular group chats you want me to try and get you added back into?
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, right? A lot of the times, right? Like, the ins and outs of the story with the particular Irish bar.
There's plenty of Irish bars in Liverpool. That doesn't necessarily narrow it down to.
Well, anyway, I was.
That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We don't need to go naming names.
Okay. No, but I'm saying there's been there has been quite a few times, but it's mostly 90% of the time I've moved on from playing at a venue has been because of a situation where I've not agreed with something. I've voiced my opinion of not agreeing with it, and they've not.
Connor stands for what is good and right.
Yeah, I try to. I do try to. I think that there's a lot of people who have loads of work everywhere, and it's because they just won't say anything to anyone and almost kind of suck up to the venue managers a bit and we're
it's tricky, isn't it? Because everyone's just playing the game
100%
of trying to keep themselves as one of the top options with all the venues. And if some of that is going, I don't need to listen to certain politics that's happening,
it's probably
I can just go and do my job.
It is the
I think that's how I've operated generally.
100%, and it is the best way to be. It's I unfortunately get myself involved with stuff sometimes that it's not even related to me, but I'm trying to stand up for the right thing.
You should run to work for the musicians union.
Honestly,
I think you'd actually probably get something out of writing,
maybe, but I don't like it's you say I don't like it when I see other people getting treated sort of
you are fighting a losing battle if you're going to say there's some. Because I think one of your frustrations is around nepotism or favoritism or any of those kind of things. If it's unwarranted or gives an imbalance in places. 100%. And what I will say to you is that we are in the music industry.
Yeah, I know.
That is where it's probably most rife, and it is. There are a lot of it's kind of one of those things. People set up a venue or something, and someone is a musician they know. They get in, they run the bookings, they give the bookings to the people they know. That's kind of obvious and it's easy. It's kind of what I've done with some of my bookings for some of the events that I'm doing. Is it's people I know, people I rate, people I've worked with before or whatever. It's kind of I don't know how else you would do it other than running a lottery, but then how would you know that everyone's going to be good enough in the first place if you don't know them? So it's hard. It is hard because it's unfortunate, but it is a truth of life
in most venues there's some kind of injustice going on. There is, right?
Someone, obviously any venue that's got live music on, someone's not going to be getting paid enough. It's probably mad that we're getting paid a certain amount and there's a bartender who's working the same hours doing a hard job that,
if I knew how
I don't know how to make the cocktails. I don't know how to make any of those cocktails or deal with any of the difficult staff.
If I knew how to stand up for that, I would, I really would. I sort of, I'm a massive advocate for that. And as well, I've seen a lot of musicians who are friends of mine that maybe aren't on the same level. And I've seen the way that they get treated and I don't like it. And you know what I mean? And it's so I don't like keeping quiet about things like that. I think,
Are you going to go as Robin Hood for Halloween this year? Get your bow and arrow out?
No, but you
didn't pay them for their overtime.
However, I do think that more recently I have been a bit sort of trying to be a bit quieter.
Toe the line a bit more.
I mean, obviously there was
less opinionated, except for obviously filming loads of time of you talking, slagging things off, but that is besides the point.
At
least this is channeling it.
There was that incident last month, but that was the only thing. And I wasn't even related to that. I was just standing up for the right thing, you know?
Yeah, you are fabulous at getting yourselves in the middle of pickles, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Should we finish with quick fire questions?
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna field more questions and stuff. Send them in.
Okay.
So this is ChatGPT's random list of quick fire questions for now. Okay. We're gonna fly through some of these. What's the most requested song at a wedding? What's your most requested song at a wedding? Mine's probably something like All of Me or Ed Sheeran or something. If they're going to be like first dance kind of vibes.
Thinking out loud.
Number 2, ever had to learn a song last minute? How did it go? Is that not going to be a quick fire one?
No, yeah, it can. Yeah, I learned. What's that Eric Clapton song?
Layla?
Wonderful Tonight.
Yeah,
it didn't go well.
Oh,
yeah.
Not so Wonderful Tonight. I learned there was one from Tarzan. And it had loads of key changes and loads of strings and pianos and stuff in it. And that
Tarzan?
Yeah, I think so.
What type of a gig were you in at Tarzan? It's like for a wedding?
Yeah.
You'll Be in My Heart.
Yes. Phil Collins, right?
Yeah.
Loads of key changes and stuff. Beautiful song. Didn't have enough time to learn it. That went interestingly.
Yeah.
Okay. What should go to crowd pleaser? What's the song in your set that gets people going the most?
Ooh, currently, probably... Up until a couple of weeks ago, probably Stick Season by Noah Kahan.
Okay. Mine, Forever and Always, will be Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Andy Williams. That is the song that I will go out to at the end of my short time on this earth.
What, is that true?
No, I don't know.
Oh, I was going to say, like, what? Is that planned? I'll sing it.
Well, I'm getting carried out. We've kind of done this one a bit. Worst gig experience. Okay, any songs you secretly hate playing?
Oh, yes. I really don't like playing... What's that song?
You're not making any noise. No. I think it might be in G.
No. I hate playing anything that has a B minor chord in it. I just
move the capo around.
No, I hate that chord, man. It's,
okay. Any song I secretly hate playing? No, I've sold myself to the devil. Okay, another one. Ever had a song totally bomb with a crowd? This is one of my related to the thing I was saying before about playing the 18th birthday party and not necessarily knowing about the set list and if they know all my songs.
Yeah.
I have had before another 18th birthday party where I played Keep On Moving by 5, started getting into it, and everyone just like looked at me and went, "What the hell is this, mate?" So I very quickly switched to like George Ezra Shotgun or something. 18-year-olds know loads of George Ezra.
Okay, nice.
Bizarrely.
What was the question? I can't...
Ever had a song totally bomb with a crowd?
Oh, yeah. R. Kelly, man. Like Ignition Remix or whatever.
No.
Like, listen. I've seen other people play it like recently and nail it. So I was like, well, I'm going to do the same.
Okay.
And then in my circumstance, I played it.
You're
and
not
everyone
cool
was like,
enough.
what are you doing, man? Like, don't play at 18th birthdays.
Oh,
like, it's
no.
It's not good.
Dream venue to perform in.
Ooh.
I know mine.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, you go first.
Red Rocks. I think it's in America.
Oh, it is. It's unbelievable, isn't
Natural amphitheatre in the sandstone rocks and stuff. That is number one hands down.
I think for me, it would be... I don't want to go down the sort of basic thing, but like...
Wembley.
I think like...
England.
Like Stonehenge.
Okay, sick. Fly in, Stonehenge. Most unusual song request you've had?
Oh, yeah. I've had a few weird ones.
Ends in Paris?
Oh, my God. Well, yeah. No. The weirdest one. I'm going to make the story really quick. It is a bit of a story, but it's going to be quick.
Okay, last story to go out.
Right. Okay. This girl comes in from, I want to say, like Brazil or somewhere, and she doesn't speak a word of English, and she gives me like her phone with ultimate guitar on it, so she must have been a musician or something.
Oh, right.
And it's a Brazilian song, and I'm like she doesn't speak English, but I'm like, if you're a musician, you know that if I don't know this song at all, I can't play this.
You just look at the lyrics and go, oh yeah, that goes
so she's going like, Brazil, but whatever.
She's like doing keepy uppies.
Yeah.
Brazil.
So anyway, I just look, I can't play it, sorry. 2 minutes later, she comes over to the stage and walks on the stage, right? And then she's like still like while I'm playing like with this phone, and I'm like, I can't play it. The bar staff at because there's no doorman, the bar staff come over to like get her off the stage and say, photo. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So she wants a photo with me. So she stands there like taking a selfie with me while I'm like got the guitar on stage. She takes the selfie. So like the bar staff go away because she's taking a selfie, and she said she'd leave, and then she didn't leave. She put the song back on ultimate guitar and carried on trying to. I was like, I can't do this. I can't play it. I don't know what the song sounds like in any way, and I am not Brazilian. I don't. You know.
My God.
So that was the weirdest gig.
Yeah, I think that one wins. We're gonna leave it there for this time round.
Okay.
Buy some Claremont tickets. There's events going on all the time. I don't know when this episode's coming out. We might have already done our first one, but there are 5 events over the summer. We're going to be announcing some fun stuff around One More Tune events. Follow us on all our socials and stuff. Share these videos.
Yeah.
Let us know any comments or questions or what you think we have been chatting absolute shit about. If you have a different opinion, let us know, and we will get to some of them as well in the meantime. All right. We will see you later.